I can't say exactly when it happened or what caused it, but at some point in the relatively recent past, YouTube became the primary source of entertainment for me. Now, I'd still watch a lot of TV and take in plenty of films, listen to lots of music, so it is kind of impressive how much of my screen time and headphone time YouTube takes up. You know, I'm a millennial on the internet, which means a couple of things. I don't really belong on TikTok, and also it means that I've been watching YouTube videos pretty much all of my life. Given how much of this content I've absorbed over the years, and given the fact that I'm a creative individual who likes to dabble in all trades, I knew at some point in time or another I would come around to making YouTube videos. Now, it was never going to be as simple as me just making videos as a hobby and posting them occasionally, because whenever I do decide to dabble in a new hobby, a new trade, a new craft, I like to go pretty deep into it and explore what it really means to work in that trade. And for YouTube, that means more than just making the videos. I wanted to make something where I could have a release schedule. I could keep a weekly pace of constant videos that I'm making week to week to week just to fill that schedule, but then also to have things within the real world calendar that would affect that schedule. To be clear, the long-term goal of this channel is to encapsulate all of my trades. That is the name of the channel, and I do intend to make videos about all kinds of things. But as I'm just getting up off the ground and getting running, it was more important to me to pick something that I could speak ad nauseum about. Something that I could pull video material from a deep catalog, one that I'm very familiar with. Something that I had a lot of ideas that I could talk about. Something that would be topical. So when the time finally came to try my hand at YouTube, of course, the only thing I was going to really make videos about was Doctor Who. This is the All Trades Jack channel. I am the titular Titillating Jack, and I would like to welcome you to Who Essays from the USA, a series where I, a big-headed and uninformed American, speak ad nauseum about the British cultural institution that is Doctor Who, all while trying not to become an enemy of the crown. This is a little welcome video to all of you who are just now discovering it. I would have made it sooner, but I'm glad I've got a few videos under my belt so I can introduce you to what it is I'm going to be doing around here, my philosophy of breaking down the material, and some of the values that you might see reflected throughout my videos. It's just kind of a take the temperature. If you're not feeling it,
somebody just passed me this and says, don't subscribe.
It really won't hurt my feelings. Like I said, this is a hobby for me, and I'm really just trying to start conversations and be engaged with people who are interested in some of the ideas that I have and who are interested in sharing their ideas with me. If that's not you, and if you're not feeling anything that I'm saying, peace be with you. If that's not you and you still want to get in the comments anyway and get into a little tussle up, you know, I'm actually here for that. Like, really, I am. I'm here for whatever kind of engagement you guys are here to bring. But I should lay down some rules for the channel right here, you know, right at the front, which is I really will take anything you have to say to me, whether it's criticism or whether it's just mean-spirited comments, or even if it's a bad faith argument. You can throw it at me. But, you know, what if you see somebody else in the comments say something you disagree with, obviously feel free to get that conversation going. That's what I'm here for. I want to hear those conversations. I want to see the debate. I want to be a part of that, and we have to be able to disagree with each other. But if you get mean-spirited with those people, I have to delete your comments. I have to. So if you feel like you got to be mean-spirited and you can't get on the internet without letting that out, please use me as your punching bag. I love that. Bring it my way. I'm here for it. Just be nice to the other people in the comments. That is the golden rule around here. Another thing, I try to keep my language PG-13. I don't always succeed. I do try. Even on the edits, I try to bleep myself out, but even in the edits, I miss some sometimes. I'm just not paying close enough attention, I guess. And I'll get better about it as time goes on. But I do try to keep it PG-13. I don't ask that y'all keep it PG-13 in the comments. The comments, that's the Wild West. You know, I'm really not trying to police anybody's expressions. So I do try to censor myself as much as possible. But again, I think that's more just me trying to form good habits for what I want the rest of the channel to look like. And the other thing is that we should probably clarify right here at the front is that I am completely aware. I'm completely aware that there are spaces where my voice isn't welcome. And I'm not trying to intrude on those spaces. I may mention other channels because, like I said, I'm an avid consumer of YouTube. And so I'm going to talk about YouTubers. That's just how it goes. That's going to be a part of the conversation sometimes. But, you know, I get it. I'm an American. Is my voice really wanted in the conversation of what should happen with Doctor Who? I mean, probably not. But I'm here anyway, and I'm not trying to invade anybody else's space. This is my little space. This is my corner of the internet. It's not very big, so I'm going to say my piece here, and it's not to take anything away from anybody else, ever. I'm never trying to take anything away from anybody else. The reality is, the real truth is that in my world, the world that I live in, there are no Whovians. They don't exist. Whovians are like mythological creatures. There are people who watch Doctor Who in my life, and some of them can talk to me about Doctor Who sometimes. But they don't want to talk about it as often as I want to talk about it. Most of them have anywhere from like a 2 to 5 season window where they were watching the show and then they've fallen off, or they just haven't kept up. And by haven't kept up, they mean they haven't watched it in 10 years. Some of them, it's been 10 years. It's crazy. But these kinds of Doctor Who fans don't want to talk about what I want to talk about, you guys. This is my outlet to talk about Doctor Who to people who I think would have an appreciation for what I'm talking about, or who know enough to call me on my crap. Because one of the things about this channel you'll find very quickly is I am uninformed. I think I know things about Doctor Who. I always think I know things, and I say them, and then someone will be like, well, that would be true, except you're ignoring this blatant fact that you just disregarded. And I'm like, oh, I didn't disregard it. I had no idea, partner. And I just don't. I don't know stuff because I didn't grow up in a culture that respects Doctor Who and cherishes the lore. So, like, I know that no one ever actually said, beam me up, Scotty. You know what I mean? I know that just because I'm ingrained in the culture that gives a crap about Star Trek, but I'm not ingrained in a culture that gives a crap about Doctor Who. So, you know, if I say something that just is out of place and wrong, call me out on it. I'm here for that too. I really am, because like I said, I'm here to have you guys are here to replace the Doctor Who fans I wish I had in my life, which includes razzing me whenever I say something that's just blatantly wrong, or something that I don't know, is just out of touch with what the show is about or doing. It's going to happen sometimes, especially because I have a very American context to how I view things. You can watch my first Who essay, which is already out, which is about the history of Doctor Who in America. If you want to get a little bit more insight on that, we've already got a video up, which is, again, this is why I'm glad we're doing this welcome video a little later, so you can get a taste. You can jump from here to there, get a little taste of what we're doing around here. But the fact that I am an American does inform a lot about my opinions. But I'm not naive. I know how many American YouTubers there are who makes content about Doctor Who. But here's the thing. Most of the channels that I've seen that do content about Doctor Who are Americans, they fall into a few categories. They are either a nerd channel in general, and then they also cover Doctor Who, or they are a special interest group or a special interest channel, and they cover Doctor Who because Doctor Who deals with a lot of special interest topics. Third are Doctor Who channels, which are dedicated Doctor Who channels that really, really love Doctor Who, and they cherish and protect it, and I guess they are run by Whovians. You know what I mean? They are true Whovians running channels that are like hardcore Doctor Who channels. And what I don't think there is a lot of, and please point me in the direction of some of them if you all know more, but what I think we're missing in this space is a dedicated voice for the average American viewer of Doctor Who. Because I think a lot of people talking about American viewers, they're talking about American Doctor Who fans. They're talking about American Whovians. They're talking about pockets of demographics that are very loyal to the show. And that is great, and that's informative, and it's really, I mean, I follow all these channels, a lot of them anyhow. I won't claim to follow everybody, but I follow a lot of these channels, so I know a lot of these, like how much they cover and what they choose to cover and what like their focus is. And what we miss out a lot of times is the very specific, basic consumer of television who could be a Doctor Who fan. And we talk about this in my previous Who essay. I'm going to plug another one about the wilderness and whether or not we're headed back to the wilderness, what's waiting for us there, whether or not the show's going to go off the air, what will happen if it does. We talk a lot about that in the previous Who essay. And this is important because we are a huge market share. The American audience is a huge market share. And Doctor Who needs it. And the BBC has been messaging that they need us for years, basically since '96. They've been sending the message, it's like loud and clear. They want American viewers to make the show viable to the degree that they want to be able to profit off of it. And I think it's doable, but I don't think there's enough of a focus on the very ground level American viewer. And I am not a ground level American viewer in the sense that I am obsessed with the show. I know way too much about it to be considered like the average American viewer who watches Doctor Who. However, I do have one slight advantage over all these other Whovian channels, which is that I, believe it or not, I'm not a Whovian.
Oh.
It's a weird thing to say that you're not a Whovian when you've got a channel that is, at this point, almost completely Doctor Who related. Got all the props, got books, you got Doctor Who annuals, got a bunch of the Doctor Who paraphernalia and memorabilia, and I've got the channel talking about Doctor Who. It's weird to say that I'm not a Whovian. But I do think that there are different kinds of fans. And there are moments when it sticks out very clearly, and I understand that I must not really be one of y'all because we are just on totally different pages. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think that there are fans in the literal sense of the word.
How exactly are you a fan? In what way do you resemble a means of keeping oneself cool?
No, it means fanatic, devoted to.
Fanatical followers of the show. And then there's fans like me. And I'm a fan because I think the show is
Fantastic! Oh, fantastic!
And, I will always love the show because I do. I think it's fantastic. But I'm not fanatical about it. I'm sorry, I'm not. I can't be. And again, I talked about this in my first Who essay. The disconnect is too strong. The cultural disconnect is too strong. I'll never be that invested. And here's the thing. I have moments where I see what is happening in the fandom and I understand that I am not a Whovian. Because recently at the time of recording, the episode Lux just came out and we all watched that and everybody loved that fan scene apparently. All the Whovian channels, they loved that scene with the fans breaking the fourth wall. And I really didn't. And a lot of the people who I saw talking about it said like, oh, that's me exactly. Oh, that's this person exactly. This is a perfect... It was ketchup. He bumped the thing. Anyway, they're saying that these were perfect representations of fans, and I'm like, look, I've got a lot of the props those people were showing off. I've rocked a long scarf. I've rocked the fez. I've rocked the bow tie at a con in cosplay. Do I do it when I sit down to watch the show at the time of release? I don't know. Maybe people do. Maybe that is a thing that Whovians, like real hardcore Whovians, do. I will never be there. You know what I mean? I don't think I can ever sit there with my sonic screwdriver in hand watching the show. Like, there's just too much of a disconnect. But I love the show, and I have so much to say about it, and I have such great respect for it. And no matter how many missteps it takes, I keep coming back to it. They could botch this season, they could botch this whole run, and it could go off the air, and I will be first in line to watch the movie that they make, or first in line to watch the new series when it comes out, or whatever. I'll be buying the books. I'm in here. I am in here, and I'm not going anywhere because I love the show. I do think it's fantastic. I'm not fanatical about it. And that's going to impact the way I talk about things, the way I break things down, the way that I maybe don't have as much reverence for things that other people will get very, very defensive of. And I am going to say sorry now in advance for a lot of that stuff, because there are things that I'm just probably not going to be very kind to that other people have a lot of love for. And it's nothing personal, and I'm not saying anything against people who like the things that I comment on, because I will probably have some pretty bad takes. All in all, just from what I've made so far, I can tell you right now, people aren't going to agree with a lot of what I say. But just bear it in mind, because I'm being really nice and really generous when you consider the average American viewer just watching an episode of Doctor Who. Really think about that when you see this face, when you see these shades. Just remember, what would the average American who the BBC is banking on rolling in, what would they say to an episode of Doctor Who? And then remember, I'm being so kind and so generous and treating it with kid gloves. No matter how harsh I'm being, I'm always treating it with kid gloves. But while we're speaking about the things that affect the way I'm going to break stuff down, another thing we should probably talk about is expanded media. Because I am a fan of the expanded media. There is some stuff that I enjoy. But I am not boned up in any way, shape, or form. There is a lot of Big Finish. And there's all of the Virgin books from back in the day, and I've not read any of those. There's the comic strip from the magazine. There's the comics. There's so much expanded media. And it's a little troubling if you want to gatekeep over this, because you have to realize how privileged you are if you can afford all of the Doctor Who expanded media, because A, it's not always cheap, B, it's not always easy to find. And C, there's just a lot of it. So to keep up on all of it, like, you must be really privileged if you have that much time and money to be completely caught up on Doctor Who, or you're just like an old head who's been here since the OG series, in which case, thanks for checking out the channel, OG. Heck yeah. Respect. Real recognized real. But anyway, I have a lot of respect for the expanded media, and I am working my way through some of it as I get older and I have more time and do have more money and have that privilege to be able to buy more stuff that I couldn't have bought whenever I was younger. My issue with incorporating the expanded media into my analysis is that its canonicity is often questionable. And even things that have very clear canonicity, it doesn't really matter, because all it takes is one episode of the mainline TV show to make it no longer canon, or at least questionably canon. Some stories just get completely remade from the books or from the comics into the main show. So for instance, if I was to say something like, oh, David Tennant was the first one to use the chameleon arch to turn himself human, someone in the comments might say, well, actually, it was Sylvester McCoy. It was the Seventh Doctor. He did it in the book. Okay, bet. but it is the same story. So did they both just go on the same adventure? Also, when 10 does it, he says, "Oh, I never thought I'd have to use this thing." So does the fact that this event happened in a book, like, really? Did that happen first when the show is very much decanonizing it? It's kind of a respectful thing because it's the original writer comes back to do the episode and they get to do a real version of it. But at the same time, they decanonize the book version of it with the act of uplifting it. And I think that is the best case scenario for any expanded media, is that one day it can become a part of the show proper. My cat's going crazy. I don't know if you guys can hear all that. That feeds in to how I talk about things. I may say that Bill is the first gay companion, for instance, and someone might say, well, it's clear in the novelizations that Ace is a lesbian. Okay, wonderful, but I'm talking about the show. And I might say that Jodie is the first female doctor, and someone might point out, it's like, actually, there was a female doctor in the books, and I'll say, great, wonderful, I'll check it out, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the show. And while we're at it, someone might say, well, she's not the first female doctor. Technically, it would be the fugitive doctor. And yeah, technically in the canon, she would be first, but technically in the canon, somebody else would have been before her because there was like a bunch of timeless children. So I think we all know what I mean when I say who is the first female doctor and who is the first black doctor. You could say both of those are Joe Martin, but whose name was in the title credits for that season? That's really what we're talking about. I think we all know that's what we're talking about. We're still using the regeneration numbers even though we know they're wrong. We know what we're talking about. We're talking about the production history of the show. And the show is what I'm talking about. Because again, I'm coming at this from the perspective of the average American consumer. The average American consumer is not listening to Big Finish. They're not reading books at all, let alone Doctor Who books. You know, they get enough comic books in the movies. They don't need to buy your Doctor Who comics. It's not happening. So the show is what I talk about. And the main characters played by the main actors in the show, that's what I'm talking about. Side companions, background doctors, extra doctors, special fake doctors. I'm not ever talking about those when I say things like the first of this or the last of that. It's just, we all know what I mean. If you want to get pedantic in the comments, go for it. We'll all have a laugh together. But I'm just throwing it out there now that that's never what I mean. But while we're on the subject of how I approach different topics and what, mentioned Bill being the first gay companion, I'm going to talk about things like that. I'm going to talk about representation within the show. I'm going to talk about the themes and the politics within the show. If that bothers you, if you don't want to hear that, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to censor that for you. I am going to talk about those things, but I want to be very clear about where I'm coming from, because I know a lot of people are quick to say, oh, you're a social justice warrior, a keyboard warrior, you're whatever else, and that's sure, fair, whatever. If you want to say all that stuff, I'm not really here to refute that. But I think it's also disingenuous to not take into account where it is that I'm coming from. My main point that I will come at the show from is completely in regard to intent. And what I mean by that is, if the BBC isn't signaling any kind of messaging, then I'm not going to gripe about the messaging we receive. If the showrunner isn't doing any moral grandstanding in interviews, I won't morally scrutinize the story. I'll let characters be as flawed as they need to be and let things develop at the pace they need to develop at, and I'll never comment on it. I really won't. But I'll never get that opportunity because the BBC loves to make a big fuss about how good they're doing and how correct they're being. And in this current era especially, RTD has some real issues with online communities and with the way he talks about people who speak for social justice online. That's a little troubling. But he definitely can't take criticism. That's something we've all grown to see. I hope that we've all grown to see that. Maybe that's just me. But I think we have all come to see his inability to take criticism. And he's a very morally righteous man. And that puts him in a predicament because you can't be morally righteous and not take criticism. You got to be accountable. So whenever I say something like, this is poor representation, do I mean this is poor representation and they shouldn't have done it? No, usually I don't mean that, because usually any amount of representation is better than none, and I want people to be employed. So, in that regard, I'm glad that they're doing their bare minimum, but they aren't tooting their horn and beating their chest about doing the bare minimum. They're tooting their horn and beating their chest about being morally righteous. So I'm looking for righteousness in these scripts. I'm looking for righteousness in these stories. I'm looking for a morally upstanding core to the values of these stories. And we'll see. We'll see what we see, won't we? We'll see what we see. I won't spoil anything here. But just know that is what I am talking about. For instance, in videos like my third Who essay from the USA, pinned below, check it out. It was a hoot and a holler. But in those kinds of videos, I am speaking against the intent of the BBC, the intent of the showrunner, the intent of the fanatics. Sorry, Whovians, but you guys make a big fuss on the internet and you throw up your defenses. And somebody who's not a Nazi really ought to check you on them. Because, there's a lot of Nazis out there these days, and they're just going to shoot down a lot of your things on bad faith arguments, and you might start getting to think that at any time someone criticizes you that they're just a Nazi. So I'm going to do really, really hard to make sure everyone knows where my values are, where my morals align, so that whenever I tell you something is bad, you understand that I'm telling you that I think you did bad writing for bad writing reasons, not because of anything else. But that's where I'm coming from on that, just so we're all on the same page. I don't think that I'm some great activist, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to speak for anybody specifically. I don't have the right in most cases, and I'm not needed in a lot of other cases. And honestly, my platform isn't large enough for it to matter in any other case. But I am going to speak my values because they're mine. So, you can call me a social justice warrior or a keyboard warrior, whatever you want to call me. That's fine. All valid arguments. But don't put intent in my mouth that's not there. I'm not trying to prove anything. I am literally just speaking my values so that people I respect will maybe hear my criticisms and know that I'm not just one of the goose steppers. Sorry. I know that's kind of stuff is icky to talk about, Nazis and all. But I think we should be realistic. They've invaded the fan base. You guys, you're not doing yourselves any favors pretending they're not there. And one of the great advantages of being a small channel is I don't give a crap if YouTube's algorithm buries me for using the word Nazi. I might cutesy it up sometimes just for my own humor's sake, because saying the word is draining. But yeah, we around here we take goose steppers on head on. That's the only way to deal with those people. Yeah, let's move past the rules and the philosophy of what we're doing here and how we do it. And let's just talk about what's coming up, because you can see I've already got 4 or 5 videos out by this point. You can also see I have another playlist where I do reactions to the current season. I'm doing one every trying to get one every weekend to respond to the new episodes. So those are coming out. Those are my raw, unfiltered reactions. They are cut, but they are mostly unfiltered. But there's also a lot more Who essays coming down the pipelines. I've got a couple of fun ones coming out. Got a big one planned for my birthday, which is coming up, and I share a birthday with something significant in Doctor Who, which we are going to talk about. That's coming up. Get excited for that. We're also going to be talking about Doctor Who in comparison to other shows, including my favorite anime of all time. That's coming up in the near future. We're going to talk about some weird stuff around here. We're going to talk about different kinds of stories, whether they're companion light, Doctor light. We're going to be talking about different kind of story arcs, those season arcs, and whether or not they work in Doctor Who, which ones work, which ones didn't, and why. We have a bunch of these essays coming out. I've got just a list down to here of things I want to talk to you all about. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't get in on the conversation too, because maybe you'll say something in response to my video that just makes me want to do a part 2 or do a follow-up or take an idea of yours and run with it, if you're cool with that. If you're a creator and you want to make your own video, hey, I won't take it from you, but like, get in the conversation, and I will absolutely take y'all's suggestions for what to talk about next. I got a lot of things on my mind that I want to talk about, but I know one of the great things I've learned about the world through the internet and through YouTube is that for every great idea you come up with, there is somebody out there who's got just an even better idea that they could springboard off of that from, and it's amazing, and that's an amazing thing. And I would love to get that kind of rapport going with you all. So if you've got some thoughts about what I'm saying, no holds barred, put it in the comments. I will respond to it, because what am I doing? I'm not too busy around here. I could check out your comments. What am I doing? Come on, put it in the comments. I'll read it. If this is your first time arriving at this channel, definitely check out the Doctor Who essay from the USA playlist. We've already got a bunch of videos in there for you to check out. Love it if you went back and watched those. New ones are coming out every week, so if you want to subscribe, check it out. By all means, check it out. I am going to be doing other things. You'll see some of that's posted already, and if you're not into the other stuff I'm doing and you don't want to subscribe because you don't want to see that stuff in your feed, I totally get it. If you're just a Doctor Who fan and you don't want to see me talk about English lit in my science fiction playlist, then that's perfectly fine. I understand you don't want to check that out. I'm also going to be doing the All Trades series, which is what this is all building to. I'm building up, like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm trying to build up my confidence, build up my platform, build up my my skills in video editing, find my voice on this platform and figure out what my style is. And then I do intend to do my All Trades series, because I have done everything, man. I have been I've been everything. Done heavy equipment. I've been a bartender. I was in the Marine Corps. Currently, I'm a printer. I was a 30-year-old freshman in college. I've lived some crazy lives, and I've just got so much to share about all of them. And I want to tell those stories, and I haven't found that voice yet. And again, that is why I'm doing this channel, this playlist specifically, the Doctor Who essays from the USA, because Doctor Who is a great medium from which to find your voice. I talked about this in my last Who essay about writers who got their start writing novels for Doctor Who went on to write for the show. And I think that this, for me, is a great way to use that outlet of Doctor Who and my love for it and my passion for it to cultivate some creative works. I've mentioned in previous videos that I was in the creative writing program at the University of Louisville and graduated with a degree in creative writing. And I love writing. And the very first time that I wrote something with the intention of like sitting down to create a story, a full-fledged story, was sitting down to write a Doctor Who fan fiction, which was sort of a Matt Smith era fan fiction involving Cybermen and a community of Mennonites. It wasn't good. It was probably a little distasteful, if I'm honest. But you grow, you learn, You become better. And you do that by, sharpening your teeth with what you have on hand, with what you know. And for me, Doctor Who has always been a great source for that. And so this is why I'm here. I'm learning to expand out. I plan to do these other videos. I plan to do these other kinds of things. And like I said, if you're not here for that, you're just here for Doctor Who. I totally get it. But in the meantime, if you are interested in Doctor Who, I'm going to be making a lot of Doctor Who content until I find my wings. And in case you're thinking, okay, so you're just going to use us and ditch us when the time is right. No, honestly, no. Because, like I said before, I don't have Doctor Who friends. And I'm not going anywhere in the Doctor Who fandom. So I need y'all. I need y'all. This is a fix for me. I really do. I need y'all to talk to about Doctor Who, because even just watching your videos and commenting with you or doing watch-alongs live, even that's not enough. You can tell by now I speak at a mile at a minute, and I have way too much to say. So there will never be enough comment space. There will never be enough message space for me to say all the things on my mind. So this was inevitable. And now that I've started, I don't know if you'll ever get me to stop. Sorry.
America salutes you.
All right, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I think that's everything we need to say. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the playlist. Welcome to the show. Glad you all came. I'm looking forward to seeing more of you in the future. I hope you check out the videos I've already posted. Stick around every week. There will be new ones. And yeah, if you're feeling this, hit the subscribe, man. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff. Check it out. If you're not feeling it, no hard feelings. I'm amazed you got to this point in the video and just now decided you aren't feeling it. But, that's okay. I'm really not butthurt. Just
Don't subscribe.
Don't subscribe.
Well, how could I possibly?
Don't subscribe.
For goodness sake.
Don't be subscribed.
Don't.
Subscribe.
Don't.
Subscribe.
Don't.
Subscribe.
You got the message, haven't you?